Hi, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of this show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal employee and proud of it. You might wonder why I have to get used to that, Brazil in the background. And I'm going to go and cover up all this white stuff over there. Uh, Lately, I've always prided myself. I've done this show for about 10 years on having a low-tech show, low-tech and no-tech. And it's still relatively low tech and no tech. However, I was very, very excited that the staff over here put the blue screen behind me. And then something I've always dreamed about and always wondered about, they attached the blue screen to a computer with the internet. And I persuaded them to put Google on there. And what I've been doing lately is putting Google up so that I have a country or a region or something on the background. I have to remember that everything is over to my left. And today I have Brazil up. Let me get my cursor. And the reason I have Brazil up is because I've been talking about energy for the last couple of weeks. The last show I did, I talked about ethanol and oil shale, and basically that America, and I mean the USA, has untold more energy than we're being told by the oil companies and by the media, so on and so forth. Is there plot in there? Maybe a little bit. I just saw a Exxon ad saying, we get our oil from Latin America and the Middle East and Africa and Europe, and we need to diversify our supply so that we can have it forever. However, some of the oil companies are jumping the reservation, and they're realizing that with the price of oil, right now it's gone down to around $65 a barrel. A barrel is about 42 gallons. And because it's gone down, it's still pretty high. And it's high enough so what they used to call back in the 70s and 80s unconventional fossil fuels are completely economic now. The only question is, do they want to put the money into it? Do they want to invest in it? And do they want North America, and I am going to do something I haven't done before, which is right here on TV. I'm going to change what the Google Earth behind me is doing. Now, you see this kind of effect. I've got to stop it. You see this kind of effect all the time on the news. They spin the Earth, they focus down, and they focus down through the clouds and all the way down to a specific building. We will be able to do that. However, it needs a new computer. However, even with this old computer, I'm able to go from South America to North America without a problem. And right here where I'm pointing, this area in here is the Green River Valley. Green River Valley is a river that goes from Utah, eastern Utah, and western Colorado, and feeds into the Colorado. And then, of course, it comes down here to through Colorado and down to the Gulf of California. But right over here is one of the largest concentrations of shale oil in the entire world. So I just pulled the statistics for oil reserves throughout the world. America is down to a paltry 30 billion barrels. Saudi Arabia is up to 250 billion barrels. And we use, right here in America, approximately 5 billion barrels a year. So if we have only 30 billion barrels of oil, well, 6 years it's gone. So, however, that's not really true, because they only count what they call is discovered oil. And what is discovered oil? Discovered oil means I've actually drilled a hole down to it. There's a pool of oil down where I drilled the oil, and I can conceivably get so much oil up from what I've already drilled. That's discovered oil. Nothing else is counted. The only exception is one of the different authorities counts oil shale up here in Alberta, Canada. So Canada now is counted as having 180 billion barrels of oil reserves, where all of America is only 60. Now, however, this oil shale right over here, 2 trillion barrels of oil. That's 2,000 billion barrels of oil. And that oil is recoverable. And I went through the last time about how there's a new technique where they can recover that oil at $32 a barrel. $32, that's only half. That's 100% profit at the present rate of crude oil. Now, what does this mean? This means one of two things. They were actually producing some oil shale back in the 70s, and OPEC just crashed the price of oil from the equivalent, what it would be the equivalent today of about $80 or $90 a barrel, down to, at the time, what was only $12 a barrel. And even $12 a barrel in today's money, or today's value, is under $20. So they got it down below what was economic for any of the other alternatives. And that is the classic monopoly. Everybody thinks, oh, there's a monopoly out there. What they do is they price everything so high because they have no competitors. No, a monopoly works just the opposite. And it's interesting because this is just economics 101. A monopoly works by underpricing to such an extent that no competitor could possibly get in business. And when a monopoly overprices, as they did in the 70s and early 80s, they end up with alternatives. People turn from that particular commodity, they get something else. No doubt about it. If sugar went through the roof and they started charging $2 or $50 for a bag of sugar, people would start using saccharin. So there's alternatives out there. And as long as people are dependent on the particular commodity, and they are dependent on oil and diesel, oil for transportation here because we just don't have electric trains, diesel for transporting our goods, diesel runs the trucks and a lot of the trains, J8, which is jet fuels, also comes from crude oil. We're dependent on crude oil. However, what is given as crude oil is basically light and moderate liquids. And there's a lot more energy out there than light and moderate crude oil. All right. So there's lots of other things. There's natural gas, and of course America doesn't have that much natural gas, but we do have quite a bit, and we run a lot of electricity off of it. It's very clean fuel. And then what we have is an unbelievable amount of coal. We happen to have the equivalent of about a trillion, I think it's 2 trillion barrels, possibly 3 trillion barrels of oils worth of coal. If you calculate the amount of coal, the number of tons that have already been discovered, and most of our coal, I managed to make it little, so I don't know how to undo that. But if you, most of our coal reserves are over here, up in Montana. We got just unbelievable amounts of coal. And most of the electricity used in this country, are run off of coal plants. A lot of environmentalists don't like that because coal is a very, very nasty fuel. And on top of that, it releases a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So that's the problem with coal. However, there is something called Fischer-Tropsch. Fischer-Tropsch is a method, basically, that was developed in 1920s. We're always talking about, boy, we need new technology, and we have to get technology that can do these things. This particular technology, being able to turn coal into diesel fuel, that goes back to the 1920s. It was developed by 2 Germans, and the Germans used it during World War II. They were producing 125,000 barrels a day of oil, fuel, gas and diesel and so on and so forth for their tanks, completely from coal. However, In order to do this, once you do it, it's very, very cheap. It's like $5 to $7 a barrel. However, in order to set up the plant, plants are somewhat expensive, and they say it costs about $1 to $1.5 billion per plant. However, you can build a bigger plant and save a lot of money and produce a lot more. The same process is used to take natural gas, turn it to oil. Now, in our case, that would be kind of a stupid thing to do. We already have natural gas pipelines. We already have natural gas run electrical plants. We use natural gas in our stoves and things like that. So we have natural gas going to our homes. So we got a network of natural gas lines. Why would we take natural gas, turn it into fuel, to diesel and gasoline, if we don't need to? However, the largest Fischer-Tropsch plant in the world is being built, and guess by who? By the oil companies. And of course, it's the same oil companies that have been forcing us to import $600 billion a year of crude oil for no apparent reason. What they're doing is Qatar, and I'm going to turn the world here. Oh, there's the Pacific. It's gigantic. And I'm going to come down here to the Persian Gulf. All right. Right over here is a tiny little mini country that sticks out into the Persian Gulf, and it's called Qatar. I'm on right now. Yeah. So we'll see you later. And so Qatar is under an incredible amount of natural gas. Natural gas pockets tend to collect right near oil fields or coal fields. So we have tremendous amounts of natural gas in Indiana and Kentucky near our coal areas, but right next to it. Seems to be almost everywhere some fossil fuels. We don't know how much, and we've only really got to the beginning of it. But Qatar over here has 960 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. That's the equivalent of as much energy in natural gas as Saudi Arabia has in oil. So the fact of the matter is they wanted to take this natural gas, liquefy it, and put it in tankers, and then build natural gas terminals in the United States so that we would import natural gas, which we have plenty of. That didn't go too far because those are just basically, those natural gas, liquefied natural gas terminals in the major ports, basically terrorist bombs. You end up with a tanker plus a terminal with millions and millions of, almost like a nuclear bomb full of explosive capacity. If anything happens, even an accident, much less a terrorist attack, all of this natural gas is under pressure. It explodes, just terrible. So in the era of I think there was one of the natural gas terminals was approved, but this idea of putting a natural gas terminal in every single port was nixed after 9/11, and that never really happened. So I believe it's Shell Oil, who produces a lot of oil for us too, is producing a Fischer-Tropsch plant, same exact technology that it takes to take oil, coal, and make it into diesel fuel, is to take natural gas and make it into diesel fuel. And this technology is old, it's easy to do, but the initial plants, like a big petrochemical plant, is expensive. The largest plant they're building is 145,000 barrels a day of oil being turned from natural gas. So it is possible to do the same plant, and instead of, they burn the natural gas and they turn it into carbon monoxide and hydrogen, and then it goes through a catalyst and gets turned almost magically, but this is chemistry, into diesel fuel. They can do exactly the same thing in our coal areas. Are they? No. Why aren't they? We don't know. But the fact of the matter is, the governor of Montana is borrowing money from the federal government. And here we are going to spin the world. Montana's right about there. And there's a lot of coal in Montana. It's second or third biggest coal state in the country. People don't realize that, but it is. And he's building a 22,000 barrel a day Fischer-Tropsch plant over there. So why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because if we become independent in oil, in natural gas, in energy, we don't need the Middle East. We don't need their, they may try to terrorize us, but if we cut them off and we don't let them come, if we don't trade with the ones that go sour or support terrorism, doesn't matter. We don't need Middle Eastern oil. So the fact of the matter is, how much do we need Middle Eastern oil? And by we, I mean America, the US of A. I don't mean the whole advanced world. Europe needs Middle Eastern oil. Japan needs Middle Eastern oil. We do not need Middle Eastern oil, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. Here's America over here. Right now we use, and there's different methods of calculating it, approximately 20.8 million barrels a day. What they haven't been telling us is that around 1977, before the oil shocks, well, after the first oil shock, but the big oil shock was when the Iran fell, the Shah fell, we were using 19.8, just under 20 million barrels a day. So over the last 19 years, we have only increased our use of crude oil by 1 million barrels a day, by a little less than 4%. In fact, if you went back to 2003, we were even Steven. We were just using the same amount of oil and gas that we were using back in 1977. So all these predictions that, in fact, the predictions in 1977 is using the same curve, that by now we'd be using 50 million barrels a day. Instead, now we're only using 1 million more barrels a day than we were in 1977. In fact, our usage of oil and gas, people put down, you know, the whole saving thing, had gone down by 20% between the 70s and the late 80s, and then started turning back up. How did we do it? We did it by increasing the CAFU standard. CAFU, I don't even know what the acronym means, but basically that is the average mileage of a car that a company produces. And that was increased tremendously. We reduced our speed down to 55, maximum 55. I can't drive 55, anybody remembers that? And the result was, and we started looking at alternative uses of oil and gas. We increased our oil and gas usage. We got Alaska started, so we started getting oil from Alaska, the Alaska pipeline, and things improved a lot. So now it's gone slightly differently, but the fact of the matter is that we're only 5% over our previous maximum back in the 1970s. So for 30 years, we haven't really increased our use of crude oil. We've increased vastly our use of natural gas, our use of coal-fired electricity, somewhat our use of nuclear power, although that kind of, after 3 Mile Island, that kind of went down the drain. But the fact of the matter is that the oil companies are very mad at us because we don't use very much more oil, barely any more oil than they produced for us back in the 1970s. We are not a very good market, and if I have anything to do with it, we should be a lot worse. Now we have Mexico and Canada, and then we have another little trade association down in South America or Central America. So from let me move the earth down here a little bit. Okay, from all the way here, all the way up to there, we have a trading area, kind of our version of the European Union. It's called NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Association. Has Canada, Mexico as its big members, and then a few states in Central America. And I think that Chile was going to join for a while. Of course, we have the biggest economy. The total economy of the whole thing is about $12 trillion a year, and there's tremendous usage of oil. However, the two largest importers or exporters of oil to us are Canada, over 2 million barrels a day, and Mexico, just under 2 million barrels a day. And we produce of just straight crude oil about 6, but there's other things, liquid hydrocarbons and things like that, which you can make oil out of. So we're a little below 7. So between the three of us, we're at about 11 million barrels a day, and versus 20.8, and that's pretty close. That's over 55% of our use. Why am I saying that? Because the fact of the matter is we only import 3 million barrels a day from the entire Middle East, and 600,000 of that, 3 million, in fact, it's not 3 million, it's more like 2.5, comes from Iraq, which of course, we're over there. They're our ally, we got to support them. It's dangerous to produce. And the rest is Saudi Arabia, about about 1.4 million barrels a day. And the rest are all smaller folks like Kuwait, which is an ally of ours, Algeria, Iraq, and so on and so forth. So if we only get about 2.5 million barrels a day from the entire Middle East, what are we doing over there? And how can we make up that 2.5 million barrels? Well, I'll tell you. One is shale oil. But in the last week, Chevron has announced that right here in the Gulf of Mexico, in deep water, of course, most of our oil is over here in Texas and Louisiana and is offshore as well. They just found a 15 billion barrel reserve of oil. With new technology, which probably isn't that new, it's called deep water. And deep water was considered unconventional oil. It wasn't counted in the oil reserves because it cost about $30 a barrel to produce. So now they've discovered $15 billion. The initial test well, the one well, 6,000 barrels a day. Similarly, right over here in Mexico, also deep oil, they've discovered another 10 billion barrels of oil. Now, America's proven reserves are only 30 billion. Here's 25 billion new reserves right over here. So what are we going to do with it? By 2010, these should be producing. And if out of 35, or let's see, 15 plus 10, 25 billion barrels, they could produce 3 million barrels a day for 60 years and not put a dent into this reserve right here. What would 3 million barrels a day do? 3 million barrels a day would completely offset all the oil that the United States imports from the Middle East, plus most of the oil that we import from Venezuela. We import about 1.1 million barrels a day from Venezuela. Venezuela is run by Chavez, and anybody who's been following the news knows that Hugo Chavez is Fidel Castro's best friend. He's been going over there and shaking his hand and kissing his cheek while Fidel Castro's been sick. Unfortunately, our biggest oil importer or exporter to us is Venezuela over here, and Venezuela is a very, very newly taken over by an enemy dictator. Wouldn't you know, just as things get better, something gets a little worse. My name is Reed Silverne. Name of the show is Fed Pride. Reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal employee and proud of it. I'm on now Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I'm doing this show on Friday, so you probably won't see me for a few days. Thank you very much.